Close this forum, and I would like to now call Antonio Melica back to us so that he can close this edition. Hello, Antonio, are you there? Hello. I will begin my conclusions by answering the question. Were we able to provide an input today to improve people's lives? And I would say yes. We spoke about innovation. We spoke about deep innovation that contributes positively for the development of a better society in Portugal. And not only electric mobility is becoming increasingly exciting. We realize that mobility, in line with our vision, needs to be more intelligent, smarter. It needs to be more sustainable, safer, and more integrated. Nissan kick-started this change, and now we are sprinting towards more intelligent mobility. Today we show that Nissan's electrical ecosystem, it's not ideal. It is possible and necessary to improve sustainability. Energy needs to come from renewables and to operate in a circular way. The way in which we manage this energy means that we will be able to return it to the grid, to our homes, to offices. V2G technology has huge potential. And Nissan, together with other partners, is at the forefront of helping with research that will lead to the Portuguese legislation in this, and it is so necessary and urgent. At the same time as we're developing the electrical ecosystem and to aid the transition for a mostly electrical mobility, Nissan created an exclusive technology called e-Power, which will allow us to, in addition to electrified mobility, means we will be transforming into this more quickly. Integration is something that we need to talk about when we talk about shared mobility. Today, we've learned that there are so many opportunities to decarbonize our cities and to share and pool transport, both land and air, inside the city. Nissan has stated its claim. We do what we do because we are deeply convicted that by improving mobility, we're improving people's lives. That is our legacy, and that is what we want to leave. I would like to thank once more the speakers here at this forum who showed us the state of the art in terms of innovation. We have the Portuguese Energy Association, the Electricity of the Azores, the European Patent Office, Uber, OVO, SBD. And, of course, I would like to thank, once again, all of our executives who spoke about our global vision for the future and showed us that it is possible to innovate and improve. I would also like to thank the many participants in this 5th edition of the Mobility Forum who were with us in this first digital adventure. And I would invite you to the 6th edition, which will be held in February next year. I will now pass the floor to the Secretary of State of Mobility, Eduardo Pinheiro, and I would like to thank him for the honor of closing the session today. Mr. Secretary of State, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for this invitation to be able to share this moment with you, to thank Maglike and to greet Nissan for this initiative directed to mobility, intelligent mobility, that is determinant to our present and to our future. Indeed, the systems of mobility in transport has a key role, has always had, but more and more so for competitiveness, economic in our territories, but also important for social cohesion of the same. Now that we're living in a pandemic, it's easy to verify that importance. But as we all know, despite that role, mobility has, in the transport sector, has a set of effects, negative effects to all systems. Our cities, strongholds to the pollution, air pollution, and sound pollution in the urban centers, and also, very important, the issue of the emissions of CO2 gases, the greenhouse gases. And in parallel, the sector of production sector has the most contribution. We are speaking for Portugal to Europe. We're 25% of the total of emissions. And we have to have an intelligent mobility, the answer to the needs of people. They're still the same. It's still going from point A to point B in an intelligent way. More and more so with the evolution, technological evolution, a contribution, extraordinary contribution to this goal, especially all the information that we are able to gather and use to the users and the decisions of the decisors, especially the politicians. And focusing on the issue of the greenhouse gases emissions, besides the commitment of all the EU, Portugal, since 2016, essentially committed to reach neutrality in 2050. It's an ambitious goal, but it's not a marathon. It is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Even if we accelerate, we need to reach those goals. The analysis for the quality of life, and for that goal, for that policy, we have three ways to act. First, as a spine regarding the transportation, public transportations of cities, decarbonizing that we have as a goal, and we need to expand our grids, whether it is the buses, the subways, the railways, but also ensure, since we've been doing since 2019, the public transportation to be accessible to everyone. The criteria of option of public transportation to be none other than the costs, to be clearly competitive like we all wish for. So a reference, in 2019, the part that was initiated, the example of Lisbon metropolitan area increased 20% in 1 year. So today, with the pandemic, the data are not those. With an extraordinary evolution of passengers, but we hope that in the short term, we will be able to recover those values, a notion of values in terms of investment. And today's budget, 28.6 million. We have an increase of 190 million more for all the system regarding the pandemic we are all living. I would say this is point one, the novelty of government, model active modes, and all modes need to be seen as additional. The municipalities have a determinant role. Government needs to have a national strategy, to have a legal framework, ensure legal framework for the municipalities to be able to decide within their territories. This is key. And also a set of financial supports for compensating all these projects. And the point three, it's ratification. It's important for our future. In this panel, it was very diversified. It was deepened and approached. Electrification, not just in the private vehicles, but public transportation as well. We need to gradually alter our fleets to fleets that are less pollutant. I would say the example of Transteja, the operation of ships in the Tagus River, and this nature, it's the biggest fleet we have, and the acquisitions of 10 more ships, electrical ones, that will replace the previous ones, diesel ones. So it's more, 50 million more, and the importance is not just the cost, but also the symbolism to have fleets that replacing the fleets with the supports to municipality in this weight models. It's important to have these examples. Where it comes to mobility, and in especially electrical mobility in private users, we've been seeing, we've been having incentives since 2017 to acquire vehicles, non-pollutant electrical ones. This value goes up to 4 million. It maintains, this value is maintained this year, and we've been seeing clearly relation of causality with the increase of the acquisition of these types of vehicles. As is obvious, Nissan has a very important role up until now, creating, building, and distributing models that are more and more accessible and give answers to what the clients need, whether it's passengers, vehicles, and commercial vehicles. This year, the commercial ones, 2020, within the scope of what is fundamental, we increased the support to the commercial vehicles. We believe that the pandemic reinforced the trend that more and more there's a logistical, urban logistic of proximity, and we changed our vehicles to electrical, the replacement to cleaner energy vehicles. And so we have from 3,000 to 6,000 euros per vehicle, and we think it will be a great difference because we are speaking about vehicles with a lot of kilometers on them, and the impact, environmental impact in this bet, and the fiscal benefits, namely for the fleets with the reduction of VAT included in the budget of 2020 regarding electrical consumptions as well as important support. And we've been seeing, despite the difficulties in the sector of automobile, the constructors, the builders, we've been seeing an increase sustainable throughout the years of the sale of these types of vehicles, electrical vehicles. Namely, I should focus on the electrical vehicles, 100% electrical. And for that, the challenges are many. I refer again this work together that we all need to do regarding supports, conditions. Unfortunately, the builders have been giving an answer regarding the supply, and the technology allows. And the issue of the grids, it's important to have a grid of support for all this ecosystem that allow me to use this expression. Portugal, since 2009, in a time where by state initiative, there were very few electrical vehicles and there were no mobility institutional for a grid. And throughout a few years, we made a huge investment in our own network, our own grid. And today, we are recovering. We have more than 1,700 posts active in the mobile grid. Corresponds to twice the points of grid of charging, and it's an increase in 2020. 1 of July 2020, besides having finished or accomplished the concession of the Republic that was managed by Barnier, it was now concessioned as it was foreseen for the company, the entity, to dedicate itself for what it was created, not the management of the stations, but the grid, and to ensure that all operators have all the conditions to provide a better service to the users. That's the great goal. And to tell you also that at this point, for those of you who do not know, one of the operators, the companies with these types of service, it's 50, around 50, and we've been meeting with all of them because due to the great ambition that exists to give answer to the increase, we also verify and create conditions to maintain a superior quality, and the answer from the operators has been very positive. From the point of view of what they've been doing and what they want for the future, the near future. This does not signify that the state stops investing. We have social programs of investment, 3 million euros in 10 and a few cities in Portugal, and 12 fast chargers to be set up in a few of the main roads connecting to the interior of the country to ensure that there's an availability of the grid to whether it's ludic or work, for people to be able to go in their own electrical vehicles. And this is something that it's being worked on right now. And I admit that it couldn't be in any other way, because I believe in the near future, even though we have private initiative with payments occurring in the July 1, 2020 in all the public grid and public-private grid, the motivation for the private sector as well. Obviously, this happens to have payments. If we didn't have payments, it wouldn't be attractive, but there's a set of territories where the private initiative will not have the same conditions to set up stations, because there won't be so many consumers as needed to maintain these stations. So the state, directly or indirectly, through the work with the municipalities, will have to ensure a grid that will cover the entire country, an efficient grid, because that assurance is the only thing to make us move forward and grow. This is a commitment from the Portuguese state to the grid, a grid that has a principle to us that is crucial and has been universal. With one card, I can use the grid in any part of the country. So it becomes universal. It's something that is not debatable. Everything else, maybe it's possible to improve, but at this point, we are proceeding to renewing the platform in order for the growth that already exists to have. We have a grid that is more than 10 years old and needs to be adapted to the demands that we have now. So, without further ado, I greet and salute Nissan for this initiative. Electric mobility has a great challenge, but I would say that it's this mobility that it's needed to be more shared between all of us, more adaptable, autonomous, and here electric mobility will have a key role, and Nissan will also have this key role in the future, near future, always with a concern. 3 points that were mentioned: competitiveness of the territories, we need to have adaptable grids, social cohesion, and lastly, and maybe the most important, ensure the sustainability of all this process. Thank you all. Thank you, Your Honor, Secretary of State for Mobility. And we are now at the end of this forum from Nissan 2020, Intelligent Mobility. I hope I'll meet you all next year. And I will end with a question. My Nissan Ariya has arrived yet? And now? No? And now? No? Well, I'll have to wait outside. Maintain yourselves there in safety. If not, driving a Nissan. See you next year.